Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Josh and this is your stimulus check update for Sunday, June 28th. I hope everyone is having a great weekend so far. As far as me, I live in Florida, so we've been facing day after day of heat advisories, which of course will soon follow with hurricanes. And to top that off, our virus cases have been spiking. Fun stuff down south. Anyways, in this video, I'll be discussing both the first and second stimulus checks, and I'll be giving you 3 very good reasons on why we should be very optimistic on receiving a second stimulus check. But first, if you wouldn't mind real quickly liking this video, giving me a big thumbs up, it really just helps with the YouTube algorithm in terms of pushing this video out to other people like you, and hopefully helping other people like you. In addition to that, leave a comment in the comment section below, letting me know whether or not you received your first stimulus check or not. It really just helps create a good dialogue and lets me and others know who haven't yet received their first stimulus payment. Okay, so I'm going to start this video by discussing the first stimulus check. And believe me, if you still haven't received your first stimulus check, you're definitely not alone. Millions of people are still waiting. Now, the IRS does plan on continuing to send out stimulus payments week after week for the foreseeable future, so you definitely will eventually get paid, and the next set of direct deposits is set to go out on next Wednesday, July 1st. So if you haven't yet checked the payment portal within the last few days, I would encourage you to do so, and leave a comment in the comment section below if you're also receiving a payment date of Wednesday, July 1st as well. And if you check the payment portal and you're not receiving a payment date of July 1st, then no worries, you still will receive a payment. Remember, as long as you're not being claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax returns, and as long as you don't have something like past due child support that could potentially offset your stimulus payment, then you're definitely eligible and you will definitely eventually get paid. It's just a matter at this point of when the IRS is actually going to schedule your delivery date. Also, you can always feel free to contact the IRS. They do have an EIP hotline, and that number is 1-800-919-9835. Just know that I would recommend to call a little bit earlier in the day. You most likely will be on hold with them for at least 1 to 2 hours. And a lot of the information that they give is the same information that you can find within the Get My Payment portal. So in most cases, I don't actually recommend calling them unless you have a couple of hours in your day to spare. All right, moving right along to the second stimulus checks. And as I mentioned earlier, I am going to be giving you 3 reasons on why we should be optimistic on receiving them. Okay, so the first reason and the number 1 reason on why I think we'll receive a second stimulus check is mostly for political motivations and Donald Trump's chances of getting reelected in November. Recent poll numbers have shown Donald Trump sliding in the polls, giving Biden an edge in basically every single swing state. Even historically red states such as Texas give Biden an edge at the moment. Now, whether you believe these polls are true or not, you have to think that Trump is at least taking them somewhat seriously. He's already essentially guaranteed a second stimulus check, and if he's able to come through with that promise, then in my opinion at least, I think he can swing some of those voters who are more in the middle but going towards Biden right now back over to him, and swing some of the swing states over back to him as well. Now, on the other hand, if he's not able to come through with this promise and he's not able to deliver a second stimulus check after essentially promising one, then that in turn could potentially give Biden an even bigger lead. And if that happens, things won't be looking too bright for him come election time. So even though on the surface it looks like at this point the Democrats want a second stimulus check the most, I would say quite honestly Trump may actually be the one that wants a second stimulus check the most, and may be the one that needs a second stimulus check the most. The second reason I believe we may receive a second stimulus check is because of the rise in the virus numbers. We as a country initially went into a lockdown, which of course got those virus case numbers a little bit more under control and the cases started going down. Hospitals were finally able to get things back under control, but that was kind of obvious. We were stuck inside all day. We were in quarantine, so of course the number of cases were going down. We weren't out socially interacting. We weren't out at bars and restaurants. Of course the case numbers were going down. That really didn't come at much of a surprise. Then, of course, whenever states started opening back up in different phases, we began to see another spike. And while the most notable spikes are occurring in states such as Florida, Arizona, and Texas, you would have to think that some of the other states are going to be soon to follow, especially as they continue to progress through their reopening phases. And this, by nature, may cause another shutdown, perhaps just on a smaller scale. And if another shutdown does occur, even if just on a smaller scale, that could also increase the need of another stimulus check taking place. Now, I don't think we'll ever again see in our lifetime a shutdown as big as the first one, but I do think that it's possible we may see another shutdown on perhaps a smaller scale, or at least just have some preventative measures such as mandatory mask wearing. Several counties in Florida where I live at the moment, for example, have mandatory mask wearing while in businesses. So these businesses are actually required to make sure that their customers are wearing masks. And if their customers are caught not wearing masks by officials, then it's possible the business may receive some type of fine. The third reason I believe that we'll receive a second stimulus check comes down to unemployment. And I already know that you're thinking here, well, unemployment rate actually seems to be going down. And if the unemployment rate is going down, wouldn't that actually reduce the chances of receiving another stimulus check? Which, of course, is actually a very valid point. And with the June jobs report coming out next Thursday on July 2nd, if that does show another decrease in unemployment, which I do believe that it will, that could potentially give these Senate Republicans a little bit less motivation to pass a bigger stimulus package. However, with all that said, I do believe that economic advisors will have to factor in that the June jobs report could be a little bit misleading. And this is what I mean by that. Let's say that the June jobs report comes out and shows another drop in unemployment. And while that's great and all, you have to figure that a lot of these businesses are coming back, at least temporarily. But they're also working in a completely different business model than what they're used to be working in. For example, what was once a sustainable operation of a restaurant working at 100% capacity, at this point they may only be permitted to work in a 25 to 50% capacity, which many restaurant owners are claiming it's nearly impossible to make a profit on. If you're going from 100% capacity to 25% capacity, then essentially, at least on paper, that's a 75% drop in revenue. Of course, that's also assuming the restaurant was always full and operating at 100% capacity. Either way, only being able to have your restaurant at 25 to 50% capacity certainly can't help, especially on peak business days such as Friday nights or Saturday, where your restaurant is usually full, but instead you're having to turn away customers just because you can only have 25 to 50% capacity in your restaurant. So with all that said, I do believe we're going to have a lot of businesses reopen back in June, which is going to look really good on the June jobs report, but these businesses are going to have to close back down in July because they're going to realize that their business is no longer operational in these current conditions. So even if the June jobs report does come out and look really good, economic advisors should be able to see right through that and realize that another stimulus check would be necessary. Now, as far as the timeline goes for a second stimulus check, I'd expect that we would probably end up receiving them sometime either in late August or early September at earliest. This is because the Senate is not even expected to talk about the second stimulus bill until they get back from their 2-week recess sometime in late July, and then they're going to be going on another month recess on September 10th. So they're going to have from late July through early September to come up with a bill, and a bill that's also bipartisan, meaning that the House Democrats can also get behind the bill and they can get this bill passed before they go on their recess on September 10th. In the end, even though I don't think a lot of us have a lot of faith in our congressmen right now, I do believe that we will get another stimulus package passed. The House Democrats have always been very highly motivated, and lately I do believe there are enough Senate Republicans to get this bill through. So even though I do believe there will be a very narrow margin in the Senate, I do believe that there's going to be enough Senate Republicans on board with a second stimulus check that they will be able to get one through. And most likely it'll just be one more one-time $1,200 stimulus payment. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin already has said that if another stimulus check does pass, then everyone who received the first stimulus check in the CARES Act would also be eligible for the second stimulus check as well. So for those people on Social Security benefits such as SSI and SSDI who have been asking if they would also be eligible for the second stimulus check as well, then the answer would be yes. Since people on Social Security benefits such as SSI and SSDI received the first check, they would also be eligible for the second stimulus check as well. And this would also apply to people on VA benefits and RRB. Since you were eligible for the first stimulus payment, then you would also be eligible for the second stimulus payment as well. All right, so at this point, I just wanted to put out another reminder about the $1,000 EIDL grant. So if you have any type of small business or just a side hustle like selling on eBay or Poshmark part-time, selling crafts, maybe driving Uber a couple of hours per week or driving Lyft. If you have any type of side hustle, it doesn't have to be anything huge here. Just apply for this $1,000 EIDL grant. And once again, it is $1,000 per employee up to 10 employees. So the most you would be able to receive would be $10,000. If you do not have any employees, then you would be the employee. So you would be eligible for a $1,000 EIDL grant. And once again, this is a grant. It's not a loan, meaning that you would not have to repay it. Also, I keep seeing a lot of comments from people who apply for this grant and they receive their money within just a few days from applying, so I'm very happy to see comments like that. With that said, these funds are going to be running out very quickly, so if you haven't yet applied, I would strongly encourage you to apply as soon as possible. It only takes around 5 minutes, and I will leave a link in the description box below. And if you have any doubts whatsoever on whether you would be eligible, just apply. The worst thing that they can possibly do is deny you. You have absolutely nothing to lose here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video by answering some of the comments and questions that I received in my previous video. And if you have any other comments or questions for me, feel free to ask. I do try to answer as many comments and questions as I possibly can. And those comments and questions that I'm not able to answer to, I do try to pick some of the best ones to answer in the next video in video form. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first question of today's video. And that comes from Ellen. Ellen says, "Good morning. I still have not received my first stimulus check. I really need it. Wonder when I will receive my first check." All right, Ellen, thank you so much for that comment, and I'm so sorry you still haven't received your first stimulus check. I find it to be quite ridiculous. It's been 3 months now since the first people began receiving their first stimulus check, and we still have millions of people still waiting for their first stimulus check. It's absurd, it's ridiculous. Unfortunately, the best advice I can give you at this point in time is just to continue checking the payment portal. You will receive a date as long as you're not being claimed as a dependent on someone else's tax returns, and as long as you don't have something like past due child support that could potentially offset your stimulus payment, you definitely will receive it. One thing you could try doing is typing your physical street address in all capital letters. Sometimes that can help fetch a date. Otherwise, the IRS has just not scheduled a delivery date, so just hang in there, try to be as patient as possible, and I'm so sorry you're having to wait such a long time. All right, so the next comment of today's video says, "Okay, Josh, I have a question for you. If my husband owes child support, can he get the second stimulus check?" All right, thank you so much for that question. And unfortunately, since the second stimulus bill has not yet passed, we don't really know whether or not people who have past due child support would be eligible for a stimulus payment. The Democrats are actually trying to make people more eligible for stimulus payments, so they're trying to include people such as dependents who over the age of 17 who were not eligible for the first stimulus payment, but they have not really made it known whether or not people who have past due child support would be eligible for a second stimulus payment. But we should find out, I would think, within the next month or so. Once again, I do expect the next stimulus bill to pass sometime in late July or perhaps early August, so we'll just have to wait and see. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you did enjoy the content in this video and you'd like to see more videos like it, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It is completely free to do so and a great support to me. Also, if you would like to receive one free stock valued all the way up to $500 from Robinhood, feel free to claim that by clicking the link in the description box below. And until next time, I'll see you guys, and I hope you have a great day today.